Well, thanks everybody for coming. This is a great turnout. This is awesome to see. Just want to say, we're here to celebrate the life of my dad, Hassan Nabi. And I'm here today with my partner Laura, my mom Irene. Turn the music off first.
Yeah.
That was a good start. I'm here with my partner Laura, my mom Irene, my little brother Ishraq, my aunt who flew down from Bangladesh, Hasina, and my cousin Mo. Hi Mo. As everyone knows here, Dad loves celebrations. He would have loved to see all of you here showing up for him to celebrate one last time. One big celebration he would throw every year was at his cottage. He would invite different groups of friends on different weekends just to hang out by the lake, spend time with each other, and eat lots of great food. So when I was planning this event, I thought what better way to kind of celebrate than to model something after that day. So the spirit of today is to keep that, or the goal of today is to keep that spirit alive today. As for the agenda, we'll have some people come and talk about Dad, and we'll talk about some stories and stuff like that. That'll be about 45 minutes to an hour. And then there's going to be somebody that's going to come up here and do some songs and stuff, and you're free to get up and mingle, and there's going to be some food in the back and all that kind of stuff. If you ever have to duck out early, don't feel bad. Just quietly head out, and the bathrooms are just around the corner over there if you need to go. You'll also notice on your desk there's a page with a QR code. If you actually go to that QR code, it'll take you to this website, and on the website you'll see some pictures of Dad and our family when we were younger. And if you scroll down, you can actually share some pictures of your own or write some stories about some times you've had together. Okay? And you'll see there's some pictures here from some people that have posted. If you click this, you'll see there's a timeline of his life, and we'll kind of go through this today, as it's going to be our agenda. In the back, you'll also see a table with some pictures of Dad, and there's some magazines on there. It's called Aron. Dad used to like to make these magazines with his friends. He would ask people to kind of write an article, and then you would feature them in the magazine, so you can go come take a look at that. Just so you know, this event is going to be recorded as well, so we'll post it on YouTube or something. You can kind of look at it after. So on the website, you'll notice there's lots of pictures. Believe it or not, Laura and I went through about 5,000 pictures to get those ones, both on his phone, my phone, and photo albums. Lots of photo albums. While compiling these pictures, we noticed that Dad had so many friends in his life that he considered close friends, from his time in school, from his time in Bangladesh, to his time in Brunei, and his community in Truro and Halifax, and also at Inland. For us to pick, just a couple people would have been probably pretty hard to say everything about Dad's life. So today we're actually going to have almost 8 different speakers. Some of them will be in person here and some on video. We'll start with my aunt, who was Dad's sister, Hasina. Good.
Hello, I think you can hear me in the back? Yeah, okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, friends and relatives, Assalamu alaikum, meaning peace be upon you. We are gathered here today in remembrance of my brother Hassan. To all who are present here today, Hassan was and always will be one who was close to you in one way or another, and perhaps played a significant role in your lives. I never in my wildest moments imagined I would be speaking about him after his demise. But here I am in sad reality where my one and only younger brother, Hassan, is no more in our midst. Hassan was 2.5 years younger than me. I recall my mother telling us about when he was born in Bangladesh. I danced around the hospital ward singing, "I have a little brother now, I have a little brother," much to the amusement of other patients and staff. At birth, he was so fair in complexion that the nurses attending my mom asked if her husband was actually a foreigner, meaning a Caucasian. Our parents were both chemists graduating from the University of Dhaka in Bangladesh in chemistry. My father taught in the university and retired as a senior professor and head of the department. He was awarded the Kali Narayan Gold Medal for his research papers and activities and had innumerable masters and PhD students under his supervision. He did his own PhD from Cambridge University in the UK. My mother worked in the Science Laboratory or Bangladesh Council of Scientific and Industrial Research in Dhaka and retired as the director of that establishment. She obtained her PhD from London University in the UK. Both my parents dedicated their lives to research in their field. When my brother was nearly 3 and I was about 5 or 6 years old, my mom went to London on a Commonwealth scholarship for her PhD degree. We were without her for about a year, cared for by my dad, grandma, uncle, and aunts. She missed us so much, she sent us a picture postcard from London every day. We joined her a year later together with my dad. She wore a red sari when she came to receive us at the airport. And I identified her immediately. But my brother had completely forgotten her and clung to my dad, shy of this lady who seemed to him a complete stranger. Must have been so painful for my mother. During the 3 years in England, we went to school, and whilst our parents were busy in the chemistry labs, my mother working towards her PhD and my father was doing his postdoctorate research, I managed to fracture my elbow when Hassan injured me with his toy guitar whilst we were playing at home. We often got into fights and quarrels, as most siblings do over games and toys. The pillow fights and disagreements sometimes led to asking each other for birthday gifts to be returned, as we were then on bad terms. Of course, these were only healthy behavior, as we soon forgot our differences and were seen to be playing together soon after. Anyway, we returned to Dhaka from the UK in 1967 and got admitted to school. Hassan was in kindergarten and I was in class 2. The school was in the old section of the city, Lucky Bazaar, and a reliable local rickshaw puller used to take us to and fro from school, quite often when my dad could not pick us up. Later, Hassan studied at St. Joseph's High School in Mohammadpur, and I was in St. Francis next to his school. From there, we completed our O-levels. He then went on to Notre Dame College and then the Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, where he completed his graduation in civil engineering in 1987. Hassan was an athlete. Being tall and lanky, he had the stamina to run in the 10,000 meters and has won many gold medals. He was in the school football team, and many a foot injury a telltale of his football accomplishments. He loved debating in the debate club, participating in the school science club, and he and I also learned to play the Hawaiian guitar from our musician neighbor. We performed in several local functions, playing the guitar to entertain the audience. All these seem like a fairy tale when I recall these moments. Life passes by so quickly. Not all of his escapades were favorable though, as he got into bad company whilst in high school. He made some friends who were into drugs and smoking, and in that phase of his life, my parents were challenged with the job of getting him back on the straight path. Indeed, they were successful, and Hassan set up his own civil engineering company after graduation. But luck did not favor his business endeavors, and he was lucky enough to find a good job in Brunei. And he moved to a foreign land with his wife and infant son. He was married to Irene, his beloved wife, in 1989, and had a son, Ittiza, in 1991. Ittiza was the apple of his grandparents' eye. When they moved from home, my parents had a sad time, greatly missing their grandson. Ishraq, Hassan's younger son, was born in Brunei. I had already departed to the UK by then, and with my husband and son for training in surgery. That was in 1991. It was at that point we parted in our lives as living together as brother and sister in Dhaka. I returned to Bangladesh after surgical training and doing my fellowship in surgery and set up my practice in Dhaka in 1998. I settled in Dhaka, and Hassan, after several years of working in Brunei, decided to immigrate to Canada. He was considering the boy's future education when he decided to immigrate. He got a job in Truro. It was during the disastrous Twin Tower bombing that he was in Los Angeles visiting his friends on way to Nova Scotia, Canada, from Singapore. He was actually moving to Canada with his young family to begin a new chapter in his life. He eventually managed to reach Halifax via Boston and has remained here in Truro ever since. Every few years, Hassan visited home in Dhaka. It was my parents' greatest sorrow that he decided to remain in Canada and not return back to Bangladesh. But we all have our lives to live. Kids grow up and leave home and find their way in the world. As parents, we have to let them go. I have visited Hassan on several occasions in Truro and come to know of his many close friends and acquaintances here. He has raised his sons wonderfully well and kept in touch with home and his mom and dad on a regular basis. He called them almost every day till they had also departed from this world. And he used to call me 7 days a week after my parents died, even if it were only for a few minutes. Hassan was a kind, sensitive, capable, and a practical person. He looked after his family with the utmost care. There will be many here who he helped and advised when they first arrived in Canada. He anticipated their difficulties and homesickness and entertained them to the best of his ability. He was well known, and his office colleagues found him to be a reliable and dependable colleague. He treated everyone, old or young, with the same genuine, sincere attitude. Hassan was a good human being. As a sister, I cannot ask for more. Through our childhood tiffs and disagreements, he has always stood by me and supported me all my life, especially when my husband suddenly expired in 2017. He flew over at the first opportunity to be by my side. He was not present when our parents expired from old age complications, but he was there at the end of the phone whenever we needed decision making. He supported me in all my decisions in his absence. He knew and felt how difficult it was for me to manage things on my own, with sick elderly parents and my own professional work, a special needs child to care for, and my own life as a whole. Indeed, since my parents died in 2021, he has been the sole family support I have received from across the oceans. A bank official once said in the context of Bangladesh, "I have never seen such sincere attitudes from siblings in my life when it comes to money matters." We had to sell our parents' house after their death. It was a really challenging job which took almost 3 years to complete. Hassan and his wife had to make several trips to Bangladesh due to inheritance laws. Unfortunately, it was at this time that Irene suffered a stroke in Dhaka and had to remain for several months in Dhaka till she was allowed to travel and fly. Hassan took it all in his stride. and managed this long distance challenge with courage and resilience. And ultimately successfully took her Irene home in April last year, looking after Irene, his job responsibilities, building a new home in Truro, together with household chores and responsibilities, ultimately took a toll on his health. He probably overlooked his own symptoms, and by the time his illness came to light, it was already too late. I lost my only brother and sibling to cancer. It is difficult to come to terms with the fact that despite being in such a developed country as Canada, nothing could be done for him as far as treatment goes. All is fated and destined by Allah. That is my only consolation, and I have to accept it. I still cannot believe or feel that he is not around. It is already over 4 months that he has departed. Days fly by, life goes on, yet memories live vividly to this day. I visited him last summer. He was building his new house at that time. He moved in, completed all his life's tasks, and then disappeared. Just when he was able to enjoy the fruits of his hard work, he had to go. We feel life is so unfair, yet we must accept God's will and continue the best we can. I have lost my husband, both parents within a short span of a few months, brother, and now I am left alone to deal with whatever life brings my way. I pray Irene, Ittiza, and Laura and Ishraq find the courage to continue in the manner Hassan would have liked. We do not live forever, and we will all depart one day. Till that day comes, let us live with joy and fulfillment, just as Hassan did, even though he is greatly missed. I would like to end with a few lines from a poem I came across. It was written by Mary Elizabeth Fry. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there, I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. Thank you.
Thank you, Fufu. That was amazing. So here's some pictures of Dad on the school days back in the day. So Dad was really good at keeping connections. Like my aunt said, every morning he would call my grandparents to see how they were while they were still alive, and then she would call after they passed. They would call my aunt and see how Mo was doing, how the whole family was doing every morning. Then on Saturdays, he would open his paper phone book and start calling from the top of his list, catching up with old friends and family. One of the people he would call often was his childhood friend, Shelley. Dad and Shelley hadn't seen each other since their wedding day. This is actually the picture of them at their wedding day. But they spoke almost every week. 2 weeks before Dad passed, Shelley finally came to Nova Scotia to visit Dad from California. When they finally met after almost 50 years, it was like they'd never been apart at all. So I have a video from Shelley, just a couple words.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hello everyone. I am Nuruddin Alamgir, a childhood friend of Syed Hassan Nabi. I have known Hassan for most of my life. I started with sitting on the same classroom in 3rd grade. Little did we know that we are beginning a friendship that would last for more than 50 years. It's worth mentioning that we graduated from the same high school and college. Although after college, we chose different career paths and had so many life-changing events like new job, marriage, additional responsibilities, migration, and many more. But we still stayed connected, and our friendship grew deeper over the years. Hassan never forgot to send me a birthday card every year, no matter which part of the world he was residing in. Hassan from very young age stood out amongst us. He was brilliant, talented, which was reflected he being always the top guy in our class, fetching the gold medal during annual high school sports in marathon race. Last but not the least, overall achievements in his life. Hassan was very kind, loving, caring, and soft-hearted person. I have never ever seen him losing his temper under any circumstance. He was an amazing people's person. No wonder he had so many friends, well-wishers, and acquaintances. Losing him is deeply painful for me. But I am grateful to have known him, to have grown up with him, and to have called him my dear friend all these years. I pray to Almighty Allah that He forgives his shortcomings and grants him the highest level of Jannah, Jannatul Firdaus. Ameen. Finally, thanks a lot to Hassan's family for giving me the opportunity to speak a few words about my dear friend, Hassan. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
In terms of timelines, the next significant part of Dad's life would be spent with my mom. They had met in 1989. A picture of that day was actually shown when my aunt was talking. It was a picture of Dad, my aunt, and his uncle. They have been inseparable since then. I don't think you've ever seen or you would ever see Dad at an event without Mom. They would always do everything together and love spending time with each other very much. Here you'll see some pictures of when they first met and first got married, including their wedding day and their honeymoon. If you met them today, they would still carry the same smile and love for each other, even after 36 years of marriage. Then there was me. They were so madly in love that shortly after, in 1991, I was born. I was born as the first grandchild on my mom's side and the second on my dad's. So I was spoiled, very, very spoiled, until the age of 3 when we moved to Brunei. I have lots of fond memories of my time in Brunei with my dad, but lots of them also included some of his closest friends, Kazi, Bokul, and the person we're going to hear from next, Sharif. These four were inseparable. In fact, when Laura and I went through over 5,000 pictures, almost a third of them were with one of these friends or their families. Last year, Ishraq, Laura, and I had the chance to visit Brunei. Bokul and Sharif spent every day with us, driving us across the country, taking us to our old houses and the beaches and everything. We heard lots of great stories about their times together, and yeah, Sharif and Cole's next.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Shariful Islam, an ophthalmologist working for the government of Brunei for the last 3 decades. Hassan was among one of my closest friends. I first met Hassan in 1995 in Brunei. We were shopping at a mall when we saw Hassan and Sheta Bhabi roaming around. Me and my wife commented on how tall they were in Bangla. And later that night, we met Hassan and Sheta Bhabi at a common dinner and found out that they were both Bangladeshis. Itteja was also there. We all had a good laugh and still remember that funny story from time to time. When we were living in Kuala Belait, not a weekend would go by without dinner with Hassan and his family. We shared many fond memories together. Hassan and I have not lived in the same country since 2001. and it has been 25 years. But Hassan was so good in keeping in touch and sending so much warmth, even from such a distance, that I never felt like we were so far away. He would never miss a birthday or any special occasion. I still have piles of cards and letters from Hassan collected over the years. Beyond birthdays, he was also diligent about marking every special occasion, whether it was a personal achievement, a significant holiday, or a moment of hardship that called for a comforting word. Hassan was a caring and loving gentleman who lived by strong principles. I have so many memories with him. I would not be able to pick any one to share. I miss him dearly, and I pray that the Almighty grant him the highest station in Jannah, and pray that Sheta Bhabi, Itteja and Ishraq and the extended family will be able to cope with this immense loss.
While we were living in Brunei, Ishraq was born in 1999. My dad was so happy that we had a new member to our family. He named him Sunrise, which is what Ishraq means in Arabic. Shortly after Ishraq was born, we packed up again and moved to, you guessed it, Truro, Nova Scotia. I always joke that we could have went anywhere in the world, but my parents picked Truro. But there's a good reason for it, and we'll get back to that in a second. You'll see a little video here of our Canadian citizenship ceremony day. You'll notice the immense smile on my dad and mom's face as they shook hands with the mountain. I don't think he had a prouder moment in his life. Dad used to tell me you have to dream big to achieve big things. And the example he would use would be him moving to Canada, his dream of moving to Canada and becoming a Canadian citizen. He always wanted Ishraq and I to remember where we came from, but he always wanted us to grow up as Canadians. He especially loved Truro because the people were always so kind and said hello to him when he walked down the street. Even in retirement, his plan was to spend the rest of his days in the town that had done so much for him. Because Mom and Dad had spent so much time away from their country, they understood what it was like to be homesick. That's why they always made a point to help newcomers into Canada, especially students. I have lots of fond memories of time spent with Dad and lots of Bengali students at Dow that had come down to do their studies. Mom and Dad were always adamant on helping them as they were away from their families for the first time, whether it was to cook for them, host events for Eid, or other celebrations, or even sporting events, creating sporting events like cricket tournaments. One of these students was Chocolate, who had become a very close family friend. Even when Laura and I visit Toronto, we go meet up with him every time. Hopefully this video will work. That's us at Point Pleasant Park, coming to barbecue.
Hello everyone, my name is Shakwat Patwari. I'm from Toronto, Ontario. It was 25 years ago when I first met Hassan, when both of us migrated to Canada in the same year, just 1 month apart. I had to say it was a precious gift God has given me that I had the opportunity to meet Hassan in my life. When I think about Hassan, the first thing that comes to my mind is not a single moment or a single memory. It's a feeling. The feeling of knowing that someone in this world, there was someone who was thinking of you, looking out for you, and genuinely happy that you existed. I met Hassan and his family at a community gathering at Halifax during one of the Eid prayer. And that was the beginning of our friendship. Hassan was never someone who kept his circle small. At that time, we were 21 graduate students in Dalhousie University, full of ambition and full of uncertainty. And Hassan stayed connected with every single one of us. Whenever he came to Halifax on the weekend, he would make his way around to each student's office just to check in, just to say hello. From the very beginning, he carried himself with a quiet steadiness that made the people around him feel safe. He never had to try hard to make you feel cared for. It was simply who he was. Hassan taught me how to include people, how to open your life to others rather than keep it contained. Hassan never went to a barbecue in the park or cottage trip just with his family. He brought me along. He brought others along. And if you knew Hassan, you know those were just not outing. They were invitation. Invitations to slow down, to laugh, to breathe in something bigger than the pressures of the week. What made it even more special was that this spirit of inclusion was not his alone. He brought his family into it too, and they embraced it wholeheartedly. I have lost count how many times Hassan's family fed us on different occasions, and they were always beside us. When I moved to Toronto 6, 7 years later, life got busier for both of us. Years pass, distances grow, and it's easy for even the closest friendships to quietly fade into the background. But not with Hassan. He used to call me every other week, and it's possibly true for many of you who are listening to me now. Whenever he came to Toronto, he reached out. He planned ahead. He made sure he had time together. And he never made it feel like an obligation. He made it feel like something he genuinely wanted to do because he did. And last year, November, I received a call from Hassan on the way to my office. I was surprised as I never received a call from him on early morning in a weekday. He called me from a hospital bed. He told me what he was going through. And as I listened, what struck me was not the fear of his voice. It was his strength. He was calm, waiting for his diagnosis. And then 3 days later, he called me again, told me that doctor said he has 2 months' time. He delivered that news with a steadiness and boldness that I still cannot fully comprehend. In those final days, Hassan was still thinking about the people he loved, still reaching out, still choosing connection over silence. There was no self-pity in his voice. There was just Hassan, honest, warm, and completely unafraid. I have thought about those calls many times since. I think they tell you something about the kind of man he was. Even in the hardest moments of his life, he was generous. He was present. 25 years is a long relationship, but what I carry forward is not the length of it, it's the quality of it. Hassan showed me what it looks like to be someone who truly remembers the people who matter to them, who does not let distance or busyness become an excuse, who loves with consistency without conditions. If there is something we can take from his life, something we can offer back to the world in his memory, I think it is this: reaching out. And don't wait. Call the friend you have been meaning to call, show up, make it. Be the kind of person who, 25 years from now, someone will stand up and say, change their life simply by being there. And for me, Hassan Nabi was the person. And I'm deeply, deeply grateful. Thank you very much.
So the next big milestone for my parents was to buy their first home. For our dad, for my dad, this is not just a place to call home base, but also forge long-lasting friendships. As my dad and mom love to entertain, I could not count the number of events we had at this home. Eid parties, birthdays, graduations, it all happened here. And for a big portion of our lives, the next speaker, Shipu, has been at all those events with us. Dad, Shipu really hit it off when they first met, and I'm sure he's got lots of great stories to tell. Come on.
Is everybody able to hear me now? Yeah. Okay.
Pretty close to
Close to it, right? Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and assalamu alaikum. I have been thinking of a lot ever since Irtaza told me that I need to say a few words about it. I was thinking about it a lot when Irtaza told me that I need to speak a few words about Hassan Bhai. So when you go through all these milestones and everybody, you can see that 25 years, somebody has known him 35 years. I met him in 2014 when we moved here. So it's a little bit 11 years I met him probably, and probably the youngest friend of in his lifespan. But one of the greatest thing about Hassan Bhai is that he would always reach out. I know he's been here in Halifax for a long, long time, but in a certain phase of his life, I have seen him when I moved here that he became a very private person. He was very selective, and he would only confine to people. So for me, he used to call me every week. Probably on Monday we'll have a chat, what's happening in the work, and on Friday we'll have another chat, what are you gonna plan for the weekend? And a lot of times we'll plan together, either we'll go to his cottage, or there's not a single trip that we made to Halifax without coming back to his house for dinner and tea. So those are our memories, and every single time he made a plan for a cottage, before he even invite anybody, he will call me, ask me, hey, does this date work for you? Are you available? I'm planning something. I just want to make sure that you can make it, and then he will go and ask others. So I really feel the privilege right now, after he's left, that somebody who put so much of priority, trying to make sure that when I'm available, he wants to make that event. So these are very precious things to me. I'm really feel sad that I didn't realize it when it was happening. Like 11 years, he was doing it consistently. He was making sure that, checking on me, he was giving me advice, because he was a good friend of me, as well as he was like my elder brother, and like somebody who gave me a lot of advice in terms of how to move in your career. Like I remember one time when I just started working for Sobeys as a business analyst, he told me one of his friend's story. He is a vice president. He looked at me, told me, you should think about that. So some of these things are like the way he will encourage you, and he will be very honest, and he'll give you the truth right on your face, whether you like it or not. He will tell you that what he thinks about you, and that's been one of the greatest person I feel about him, that I will ask him and he will tell me straight away whether I might not like it, but he'll tell me this is what I feel about it. And then a lot of times he'll correct me as well, saying, okay, oh yeah, you got to do this, you're not doing that. So those are the moments I really miss about him. And one of the other things that everybody talked about, that he used to make sure that anybody who comes to this, what you call Nova Scotia, from a Bangladeshi origin, he will make sure that he will take care of it. And that's how he connected with me, because there was somebody who told me that somebody is coming from Toronto, and I was here for 2 weeks. I didn't even reach out to him, because we were trying to get ourselves used to it, get packed and everything. And one day I heard from the person who gave me his number, told me, hey, you haven't talked to this Brother Hassan, he is waiting for you. I said, really? So I gave him a call, and the first call with him is always interesting, because he will ask you a lot of things about you. Who you are, what you did, and where you are, what you work, and all these things. And we used to call it, it was a 45 minutes interview for me, because he was asking me a lot of questions. And it was fun, because to me, like the way he was asking me, he showed that he's really genuinely interested about you. Like, I think that's what really touched me, that okay, he's not in simply having a conversation. He was really asking questions about you, which school you went, what your parents are, where your brothers are, what made you here, and all those things. So, and that's how we started. And then he realized, okay, since I'm a newcomer here and I don't know anybody in the community, he invited me to his cottage, and that's where I have seen that probably the whole Halifax was there. Like pretty much 40, 50 people were there with food and everything. It was like a feast. And that's why he made sure that he will take me to everyone. Told me, hey, this is the new person. He moved in here. I just want to make sure that you know him. So that's how he took me on his side. And ever since after that, every trip he planned to the cottage, I was there. He will make sure that the date he chooses works for me as well. And even sometimes he will change the date for me. So to me, that's a big privilege. And my wife made sure that today she sent my daughter with us, because I usually get very emotional every time I try to talk about Hassan Nabi, because he has been such a big part of it. Because I met him in 2014, and last time I met him on December 13, and that's on the evening. And after a couple of hours later, he passed away. So to me, I felt like, unlike a lot of others who has known him for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, I knew him for 11 years. But I was at the last moment, I was with him. And the last couple of days when he was at the hospital, I will go there and see him. He'll look at me and he won't say much. He will talk to a few people, but he will not say a word to me, but he will look at me with a very sad face. And it felt like he knew that he's going away, he's leaving this world. And he sees me, he thinks that he's gonna miss our friendship. And that's how I looked at it ever since then, that's how the events are unfolded. And for us, my kids were young when we moved here, and he gave me a lot of tips about how he handled Irtaja and Irshad along the way at the same time, and a lot of parenting advice as well. And when you get to let your kids go and let them grow a little bit, and he told me about the story about when Irtaja went to Dell, he thought of moving close to Halifax to be close to him, and then one of his good mentor told him, no, you got to let your son grow a little bit, leave him alone. And the same advice he told me about my son as well. Okay, he's growing up, so you got to make sure that you don't babysit him too much. You let him grow, and he'll come back to you. To me, and as a whole, and along all the way in the last 11 years, I was able to meet Hassan Bhai's dad and mom when I was in Bangladesh. I went to their house, and at that time, I'm talking about 2016, he wanted to set up a Skype account with his parents. I used my small knowledge of Skype to set up an account and his dad was able to call him from right there as well. So that's one thing I remember about him. And also every time my mom came in, my brothers, sisters came in, he will always make sure that he will come to my house to meet them personally. And then he will invite all my extended family to his house. So to me, being a Bangladeshi person origin, we love food and we love bringing people to our house, and he was just living example of all these qualities that he used to carry. And the other thing I always every time knew that Saturday morning 9 to 10, I would not call him, because that's his time when he used to call his parents and his sister. So some of these are, he used to follow a schedule, how he wants to go about it, and how he would spend times, hours, and sometimes we'll be on the phone for 45 minutes, 1 hour on a weekend, just to talk about what's happening. And he used to love barbecuing. I used to invite him every time I have barbecue in my house. And to me, when I think of it, at the end of the day, his life has been part of, like my life has been part of his journey for 11 years. And he taught me a lot of things about how to connect with people, how to reach out when you see that somebody might need your help, but they don't even ask you. He will be always there. Every time that a student comes in Truro, he will be always there for them. He will bring them to the house, he will bring them to the cottage, and he will reach out to them whenever they need any help. Even I know that he used to drop them to US, because there are 2 students, they left Nova Scotia and they went to States to pursue their PhD. He went to airport to drop them off. So he was just like that. And for me, every time I used to go on an overseas trip, he would make sure that he would pick me up from the airport. So that's how close we were. And there was once he was going back to Bangladesh with Irtaja, and I came around 3 in the morning to drop him off. And Irtaja was like, okay, what's going on? I said, to me, that's normal for me because this is the person who I am connected so much, and he is such a big part of what we used to do. And every summer, his cottage was one of the places that we will always go and stay there. We'll go on a on the morning, have food, and in the evening we'll spend and we'll sit down beside the fire in the evening and talk a lot about what's happening and what's going on. Even I will share my stories of work, how I am getting stressed, and he will tell me how to get de-stressed. So, and with that, I came to know all his colleagues as well from work, like Paul and Lisa and everybody. He will invite me as well. So I was one of the person I think in the last 11 years didn't miss a party in the cottage. So, and this is what we're gonna miss a lot. But again, thank you so much, Ishaq, Itaz, and Shadababi. I know that this house is very special. And when he was planning for the house, he showed me the plan a few times. Even he took me a few times there just to see how the progress was going on. When he was buying furniture for the house, he was with me. We were planning and we went to the store together. And that is a time when Shadababi was in Bangladesh getting a recovery from her stroke. He was very worried about her. Like he would refuse to go to any party without. I think that my time is up. I probably overused my time. But again, thank you so much, everybody, for seeing a lot of familiar faces and stay connected. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I've been part of many of those interviews. I know exactly what you're talking about. And when you were talking about the interview, I saw Steve over there laughing because he's probably had the same experience. So the next great idea my dad had was, every great Canadian story happens at the cottage by the lake. So that was our next big milestone. As you can see here, Dad held so many events there, large as 50 people and small as 4 of us. Anytime we had visitors from abroad, they would need to spend a couple of days at the cottage. Ishraq and I have also funded lots of our really good memories with our friends there. But what a lot of you may not know is that when we bought the cottage, it looked nothing like it does today. There was a lot of work that went into it, and most of that work, or all of that work, was done by Quinn. Dad met Quinn at Inland, and they quickly developed a friendship. Quinn quickly went from Dad's friend to becoming a very close friend of the family. After Mom had her stroke in 2024, he took on the immense task of building our new house in 3 months. If you have been there, you'll agree that he did an amazing job. During the last year, Dad and Quinn probably spoke almost every day or every other day. He looked out for what's best for our family, and he would always say, our main priority is getting your mom safely in the new house so she can feel more at home. When Dad got sick, Quinn would visit almost every day at the hospital, if nothing just to hang out with him and keep him company. Quinn has a few words he'd like to say.
Hello, this is kind of my first time doing this, and at the end of the day, it was a worthwhile speech that I'm going to give. I've never publicly spoke before. Anyway, and I've got hard suits to follow here. I started many years ago with Hassan at Inland Technologies, and basically it had just started as a working relationship. And it grew into a friendship of him and I talking back and forth kind of on a bi-weekly basis, even though there wasn't a project going on. So I was working for my father's company when we first started to do work at Inland, and shortly after that, my father had passed. So we made the decision to shut down that company, and I went to work for another contractor So at the end of the day, Hassan still, through our friendship and our working relationship, wanted me to do work at his house. So I kept that even though I was working for somebody else. Now, 8 years ago, I started a business of my own, and Hassan and Irene were a big part of that for me, because obviously anybody knows that when you're starting your own company, things aren't quite as easy as what people would think they would be. And Irene and Hassan both gave me emotional support, and at certain points in times, they gave me financial support in creating more work for me. And basically, I'm very appreciative for all that. But during this whole process of meeting with Hassan and meeting with Irene, there was never a time that you could go in that he wouldn't ask how your wife was, how your children were. You would have a conversation first before you addressed anything that was work related. You know, some of the projects we did complete where we did a bunch of work at their old house, and him and Irene had entrusted me to do work on the cottage after they first bought it. So I'd spent a whole summer there by myself, renovating it the winter or the way that they wanted it to be renovated. And the last project obviously was basically to get Irene into a house where she could function on one level. But he was also just a person that was very, very, very selfless. He always was looking after other people before he would himself. He would always ask how family members were doing, right down to my father-in-law, who worked for me. At the end of it, I think he liked my father-in-law more than he liked me. But just in short, I've never met a person like him. He was always giving, always caring, always put himself last and everybody else first. I probably could say more if I had a publicly spoke more, but that's it.
Thanks, Vin. Good work. Now, let's get back to what brought us to Canada. On a cool day in September of 2001, we landed in Halifax Airport, and there was a man by the name of Richard Johnson that picked us up from Inland Technologies. But the funny thing is that Dad didn't actually work for Inland Technologies at that time. He had done some interviews over the phone in Brunei, and he was called for a face-to-face interview in Truro. So he decided to pack up his whole life and family and literally move to the other side of the world for a chance to work at this job. For those of you that don't know, Inland works at airports all around the world. And for those of you that didn't put it together yet, we landed 2 weeks after 9/11 had happened. During the time when airports were shutting down and travel was coming to an halt, Inland went out on a limb and hired my dad. Our whole family is forever grateful for that decision. Dad made lots of friends at Inland, and since his passing, I've also met many suppliers to and from Inland who knew Dad and spoke very highly of him. He loved his work and cared very much about his team. Both Colleen and Holly, who worked on his team, were part of many of our celebrations at our house and cottage, and he spoke a lot about your guys' time together. Paul and Lisa were also very close friends of the family. Literally, from one of our very first days in Canada, Paul has been in our lives, both professionally and personally. Dad especially loved going to see Paul's plays, and he would always tell us all about them. So Paul has a couple words for us.
I think it's all right. Good afternoon, everyone. First, I'm very honored to be here and to have the ability to say a few words, so thank you very, very much for that. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Paul Gamble, and I've had the privilege of knowing Hassan as a work colleague and a friend for more than 2 decades. I met Hassan shortly after he arrived in Canada with Irene and the 2 boys. We started out as co-workers, working fairly close on a number of projects, many of them driven by Hassan himself. He was always looking for ways to improve things, especially when it came, of course, to purchasing policies. If there was a better way to do something, Hassan was already halfway through building a program for it. But over time, our working relationship became a friendship, and that's where you really got to know Hassan. Hassan was, without question, one of the most generous people that I've ever met. And if you knew him, you know that generosity often came in the form of food. In the early 2000s, I admit I had a pretty limited experience with Indian food, but after meeting Hassan, that quickly changed. He didn't just share meals, he shared his culture. He would proudly explain the differences between Bangladeshi, Pakistani, and Indian cooking methods, often at great length, and always with the clear conclusion that the Bangladeshi cooking method was the best. And honestly, after eating enough meals at his table, it was hard to argue. Hassan was also very deeply proud of his family. If you ever had the chance to visit his home, you would have noticed something right away. There wasn't a wall without family portraits. His love for his wife, his children, parents, and his extended family was everywhere. It was unmistakable. Hassan was proud of his homeland and a proud Canadian. He embraced life in Canada, but with one clear exception, shoveling snow. He was not a fan, but who is? Hassan also loved music and the arts and would often share his favorite Bengali and Bollywood films whenever you visited his home. And as many of you know, I'm involved with community theater, and Hassan was always incredibly supportive. He made a point of coming to see shows whenever he could, often bringing Ishraq along when he was younger, whether Ishraq liked it or not. And as those of us in the office know, Hassan definitely had opinions. His favorite production was one we did as a World War II tribute, featuring songs and stories from that era. Of all the shows he attended, that was the one that he talked about the most. Now, I was taken a little bit with what Hasina said about Hassan running track, because I don't think any of us here in Truro had ever seen him run. So that was very interesting to me. Now, one might not refer to Hassan as outdoorsy, but he understood the value of cottage life. When he bought his cottage in Beaver Dam, I was honored to be one of the first people invited out, although I quickly realized why, because shortly after he invited me, he said, "Bring your tools." I'm glad Quinn took over after that. That was Hassan, though. He brought you in, he made you feel welcome, and then he put you to work. And I think most of us were pretty happy that he did that. More than anything, Hassan valued his people. He always had a way of bringing them together. He would make a program, as he liked to say. There were many gatherings at his house, but even more at the cottage where my wife and I met and made many new friends. And it wasn't just about gatherings. Hassan had a genuine concern for people. At the office, we have a memory book, and I took some time to read through it in preparation of today, and the same sentiment came up again and again. Hassan always took the time to ask how you were, and he truly meant it. Hassan was also deeply devoted to his faith. He shared that part of his life openly, helping many of us better understand Islamic traditions and celebrations like Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr, and Eid al-Adha, for which that last one he and I would often refer to as the cow one. And I was always honored to be a recipient of some of the distributed meat from that celebration. When I think of Hassan, I think of someone who built things, programs at work, gathering among friends, a home filled with love, and a life rooted in generosity, faith, and family. I will miss Hassan very much. Not just as a coworker, but as a good friend. And I know I'm not alone in that. Hassan brought people together. everywhere he went. And looking around this room today, I think it's safe to say, I think that says everything about the kind of man he was. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. The last thing, Dad did was work on the house, our new house. He passed a couple months after we had finally moved in, but we did get to throw a housewarming party, so you'll see some pictures here from that. That was his last big celebration. To bring this section of the day to an end, I'm going to ask one of Dad's oldest and dearest friends, Pintu, to come say some words. He's known Dad since they were both young, but really became good friends after he moved to Canada. Dr. Siddiq has been given Dad lots of guidance in his life and was really a big brother to him. So he's going to be the last speaker today.
Good afternoon, Sheta, Irtiza, Laura, Ishraq, assembled family, friends, ladies and gentlemen. We are gathered here this afternoon to celebrate the life and accomplishments of my dear friend, Syed Hassan Nabi, and to offer our heartfelt support to his family and to all those whose lives he touched and enriched profoundly through his love, friendship, compassion, and simplicity. My wife Lily and I and our children have been the beneficiaries of his love and affection. So we know firsthand what an incredibly warm and generous person he was. He made us better people through his kindness and loyalty, and for that we shall remain eternally grateful. Hassan was a simple man at heart, a man of great character and enormous intelligence, and a gifted civil engineer. He was born in Dhaka, the same city where I was born, some years prior to Hassan's birth. And while younger than me, he and his sister grew up on the campus of the University of Dhaka, in the same neighborhood where we lived. His father, a distinguished Cambridge-educated chemist, and my own father, a physicist, were both professors and colleagues within the Faculty of Science at the University of Dhaka, and shared a deep mutual trust and respect for each other. As lifetime fellows of the Bangladesh Academy of Science, of which my father was a two-term president, they worked collaboratively to advance scientific research in Bangladesh. In January 2026, I had the opportunity to tour the Professor Syed Nurun Nabi conference room and adjoining areas within the chemistry department at the University of Dhaka. This was Hassan's brainchild, as a lasting memory of his illustrious father, inspired, designed, executed, and funded by him. Following his graduation from the Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, Hassan worked in Brunei for a number of years before moving to Nova Scotia in September 2001 with his wife and two young sons. His father had called me just a couple of weeks prior to his arrival, informing me that Hassan had accepted a position with Inland Technologies in Truro, which specializes in aircraft de-icing and environmental management services. The years that followed were momentous. True to his character, Hassan worked with tremendous loyalty and dedication for this company until the last day of his life, pretty much. Some years ago, Hassan invited me to Truro to show me a plot of land, a few steps from his home on Young Street, where he would build a large bungalow on a slab that would be his retirement home. The bungalow with a massive driveway and a large two-car detached garage was built and furnished, but sadly, while he and Shweta lived there for a while, his untimely demise deprived him of what was to have been a dream retirement home. For his friends and admirers, Hassan was a loyal friend, not just a doting father, husband, and community leader that we loved and respected. He was truly a down-to-earth, simple, and very humble human being, never looking for personal accolades or credit. When his wife Shweta suddenly fell ill during a trip to Dhaka, he became her caregiver, shuttling between Halifax and Dhaka to ensure that she received the best health care, neglecting his own health. In his last year in this world, he would often say to me, "Bhai, I don't feel well." Little did we realize that the end was so near. Hassan's bravery deserves special mention. The morning that he was diagnosed with that fatal illness, he called me to say, "Bhai, the hepatologist has told me that I am a year too late, that I have only 2 to 3 months to live." Shocked and startled, I said, "That can't be." He replied, bravely again, "It happens to some people, perhaps sooner than anticipated, but it happens." 16 days later, early in the morning of December 14th, 2025, Iteza woke me up on the phone to say that his father was no more. I have never witnessed such transparency and bravery in my life. And I pray that as my own life is drawing to a close, I will have the courage to emulate Hassan's bravery and steadfastness, even if only partially. That I will not hide behind a cloak of secrecy and denial. But we are here today to celebrate Hassan's life and the joy that he brought to all those he touched so deeply. Some years ago, he called me from a local car dealership to say that he wanted to drop in for a few minutes. Moments later, he parked his brand new Mercedes-Benz in my driveway and said, "Bhai, I wanted you to be the first person to see my new vehicle." Then there were those full-day delightful visit to Hassan and Shweta's home in Truro with my parents and to their cottage in Sheet Harbour. I remember their warm hospitality with both of our families together. One such visit to the cottage included my daughter and son-in-law who were visiting from Toronto. We also had the privilege of hosting his parents and his sister separately to our home in Halifax on multiple occasions. He had also made it a point to visit our St. John home to see my parents whenever he could. Then there were numerous picnics together in the valley, concluding with a meal at Grand Pré at the eastern edge of the Annapolis Valley. On one occasion, he booked a room in the hotel where we were staying in Sackville for a conference to be with us for a couple of days. He was a lover of music and joined us at our society's 2023 festival in Halifax on the condition that I would also have to be there. Hassan was like a brother to me, and his passing has changed my life irreversibly. Nova Scotia will never again be the same. Those phone calls to Hassan from the highway, as Lily and I would pass through Truro on our way to and from St. John, have ceased. There will be no more meals together, not in our homes or at the Bicycle Thief, which was one of our favorite restaurants, nor anywhere else. He had insisted many times that we perform Hajj together, but sadly, that also was not to be. To say that I miss Hassan will be an understatement. His passing draws to a close a warm and close relationship that spanned over many decades. I can picture him in my mind with a beautiful smile, punctuated by laughter every now and then. The last time I saw him, Hassan introduced me to a few colleagues from his hospital bed just before his passing. He said he was feeling good after taking a bath that day. I overstayed because Iteza was not there to monitor the amount of time we spent with him. Little did I realize then that that would be the last time I would see him. Being in Toronto, I missed the opportunity to bid him farewell when the last rites were performed, as he was being laid to rest. Rest in peace, my dear friend. We shall never forget you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for sharing those kind words. Just waiting for Mom to get up here.
Yeah, one. Water. Mungkin ya, sir.
From our whole family, we just wanted to say thank you to everybody for coming today. Dad would have loved this, to have everybody here to celebrate his life. Feel free to get up and mingle and say hi to everybody. There's some food in the back, and there's going to be some music that'll be coming here shortly. I just wanted to say one last thing before leaving you guys today. In his last days, he told the doctor that his only wish was for his family to be happy while he was sick and stay happy after he had passed. Your support over the last couple of months have meant the world to us. It has kept smiles on our faces. Hearing all the lovely stories about Dad that you had with Dad. So please keep telling those stories, as he will never truly be gone as long as we keep sharing those memories. Thank you for coming, everybody. Thank you.